Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Catriona, and very similar to Tim, before I get underway and formally address you, I too would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of this amazing land here in Sydney, the Gadigal Band of the Eora people. I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and I would also like to acknowledge any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people we have in the room here tonight. I'm a mad social media fan. If any of you like to tweet, my Twitter handle is @Catriona, spelt the Gaelic way with a random O in the middle of it, Wallace, and I'll pick those tweets up later on tonight. So Tim mentioned I'm a business owner. I'm a CEO, a Chief Executive Officer. I'm not a chief. I'm not really an executive, and I'm certainly not an officer. Now, this language is absolutely fascinating, and it's one of the reasons I think now Fifth Quadrant has been as successful as we are, because we have started to challenge these military terms in business. So what I'm going to do tonight in the 9 minutes that I have is talk to you a little bit about the consumer power economy, the changing economy that we're in, and how the language around being executive officers, about having consumers in pipelines and who are captive, is no longer going to be relevant. And then I'm going to talk to you very quickly about my team, some of whom are in the room with us tonight, and some of the courageous decisions we've made in how to structure and how to employ people in order to be successful. And I say successful, and I mean that by way of we've just recently, in the last month, been awarded the Telstra medium-sized New South Wales Business of the Year, and also Telstra's overall New South Wales Business of the Year. And I'll talk to you about some of the reasons why I think we won that. So I'm going to start just very quickly with my journey. My personal journey is tied to this journey around the consumer power economy. And when I started out, I wanted to be a farmer. That was my chosen career. So I went to university and I studied agriculture for a couple of years. Recognised at that stage that farming may not have been the best decision for me, because all my other ag mates were going into merchant banking. So I left the farmers and joined the New South Wales Police Force. So I look like this now. I used to look like this. So I was, for 4 years, a detective at King's Cross Police Station, Darlinghurst, The Rocks, and was a prosecutor at Redfern Local Court. And when I was prosecuting, I was locking up a lot of either women or blackfellas. And so in my early days, my early 20s, I started to figure out that how women were treated, and certainly how our Indigenous population were treated, was not quite fair and was not quite right. So I just tucked that away, left the cops after about 4 years, went and worked with a management consulting company, one of the big firms. They used to hire me out at about $1,000 a day, pay me about $25,000 a year. And I thought, well, actually, I can maybe do that myself. So at the age of about 24, I started my own management consulting firm. Hadn't forgotten about this interest in women and Indigenous culture. So went and did a master's degree. Went back to uni, finished an economics English literature degree. Kept consulting, went and did a master's degree in sociology, where I studied Aboriginal studies, Indigenous studies, Australian studies. Consulted a bit more, and then I went to do a PhD. So I have a PhD in organisational behaviour from the Australian Graduate School of Management. And there I studied leadership, and I studied the relationship between organisations and people inside the business and their consumers, and how you lead that. So my worlds were sort of still separate. I had this kind of interest in women and Aboriginal people, and now business and consumers. And then I came left uni, taught on the MBA program there for 10 years, so I was really well trained. There's probably very few people that can really get through the org theory more than I. And when I came out, I did join Fifth Quadrant. So it was a small business, a different business called ACA Research. And I established Fifth Quadrant as an arm of this business, and then now this Fifth Quadrant business is much larger. And what I did is I went out into organisations and started to look at how they were doing business, with their chief executive officers, with their second in charge, with their chief of staff, with their heads of departments, doing plans, targeting, executing, terminating people. And then when I looked at how they were managing their customers in the marketing department, I heard language such as, our customers are in pipelines, we have them captive, we tag them, we flag them, we brand them. When I was a farmer, I used to brand cows. And we give them terms and conditions. Now, I remembered from my police days, this is the language that we use for when we lock people up. This is the language military uses for prisoners. And I investigated that a bit more and recognised that the seminal papers that were written in the academic community about organisation theory were based on the study late 1900s and the 1960s, when the only really good organisations to study were the military or manufacturing plants or car manufacturing plants like the Ford Motor Company. So today we have the legacy of this still in our businesses, and it's caused a lot of problems. Fifth Quadrant studies consumer behaviour and consumer research. The last study we did of 1,000 consumers showed us that 65% of Australians either rate themselves as having a poor to average experience with companies that they are customers of. 75% said they wish that they could customise the experience that they have. So what we see is a huge disconnect between the way organisations are set up to operate and what customers want. And one of the challenges there is that these military models still exist. But we're in a time now where the power is not shifting. Organisations, the corporates still have a lot of power. We're seeing the rise of power in the consumer base through social media, through digital online channels. And this is now becoming uncomfortable for organisations, because how do we actually know how to deal with a powerful consumer group? So that's what we've set Fifth Quadrant up to do, is to work with boards, CEOs and executive teams to start to navigate and break down these old models and start to do new things. So one of the things that we've been very successful in doing is this notion of co-creation. So what we say is, it's actually impossible for your organisations or the corporates in Australia to truly unlock the value in your customers that you want to unlock without your customers being involved in unlocking that value. So one more time. It is impossible for you to unlock the value in your customers without your customers being involved in unlocking that value. So what we do is this process of co-creation. We take the big corporates who are terrified of doing this on their own, and we get their customers and we get their employees and we put them together, well beyond the traditional market research or qualitative type work, and actually discover new things. So co-creation allows organisations to definitely solve customer problems, to meet goals, but to articulate unmet needs of customers. And it's the only way that people, employees within an organisation, can truly connect and understand what their customers want. So that's the sort of work we do, and in customer experience design. The other parts of my business are involved in philanthropic work. So there are 4 companies that I personally own. So one is Fifth Quadrant, one ACA Research, one a high-rise commercial cleaning company called Avoclean, and one is a startup business called Flamingo. In addition to that, we have 3 not-for-profits that we have founded and fund. One is Indigo Express, Indigenous Literacy Program. One is Kids in Philanthropy, mobilising children to give. And one is called Up and Out, and it's in the employment of people who have been incarcerated either in jail or in detention. So what we have done is, in Fifth Quadrant, brought all those things together, me and my staff. So we're about 60 to 70 staff based over in North Sydney. And what I believed is, in the work that we do and the way we help our clients and corporates to service their customers and to be genuinely connected with their customers, meant that I, as a CEO, I, as a Chief Executive Officer, needed to create that within my own business. So what we did is we did take some amazingly courageous decisions, I think. And perhaps Rob may disagree with some of what you said about courage. For me, we leapt into the abyss with this. I had no understanding of whether this would be a good thing or bad thing for our business. But what we decided to do is to create a company that was based on diversity and inclusion. So we have direct programs now where we work with Dilwinia Women's Prison, and we hire women who have been in jail. We have had 6 women with us in the last 2 years who have had their lives changed because of the role of employment we've been able to play. Equally, our lives have changed because these incredible women are in our lives. We employ directly asylum seekers and refugees. In the last month, we've employed Saeed, who is a Palestinian Muslim refugee, and Adam, who is a Moroccan asylum seeker. Now, Adam his case is up in October. He's been here about a year, and we don't know if he will stay in this country or he'll have to flee to another country. But to me, that doesn't matter. He is an incredibly valuable part of our team. We also employ disabled people into the business as well. As Tim mentioned, the very last thing I'll talk to you about I think, which is courageous, is we've taken all the structure out of our business. So for me, business needs to start being about genuine, deep human connection. And we can't do that with chief executive officers. I can't do that with these hierarchical leadership. Times are uncertain for us. Technical leadership and technical problems require hierarchical leadership. But uncertainty requires what we call adaptive leadership models. And in adaptive leadership models, there is no structure, there is no reporting. My staff who are sitting up the back there, they don't report to me, they don't report to anyone. They do their work and they communicate, they care and they trust each other. And it works beautifully. So our courageous decision has been to base our business on deep human connection, to employ people no one else will think about doing, and to unstructure all the military models of the past. And I hope that some of those things may inspire you to think of doing similar things in your own organisations. Thank you very much.